Jobs report, but you'd never know it by listening to White House economic advisor Austin Goolsbee. Take a listen.
There are going to be bumps in the road, but our effort has got to be, as a nation, get the growth rate back up and keep at the kind of trajectory that we've seen over 6 months, which is adding substantial jobs.
Well, the nation's unemployment rate ticking up to 9.1% and a scant 54,000 private sector jobs created in May. So what does this mean for the president's 2012 re-election prospects and his economic message going forward? Joining me now, Roll Call staff writer Shira Toeplitz. Shira, good to see you. The president, goes out yesterday and he delivers this major speech about the economy and how automakers are driving the recovery, and yet he makes absolutely no mention of these, I think everybody would agree, abysmal jobs numbers. And in fact, today's radio and internet address, same thing, he ignores it. He did say, again, same as Goolsbee, there will be bumps in the road to recovery. In truth, is that just spin, or is the White House in denial?
Look, he said there were bumps in the road. I wouldn't say there are bumps. I'd say they're more like hills that we're dealing with at this point. This is not a speed bump. An edging up in unemployment rate, that's not good for the White House. I'm sure they've seen the numbers. They know they're bad. That's why they're not talking about them. President Obama had a choice going out there to Toledo this week, speaking to those automakers, and the choice in the words he gave to his speech on Saturday. He chose not to talk about this unemployment rate. And frankly, I think they'd much rather just pretend it didn't happen.
Well, and it was a little surprising. Instead of sort of directly and honestly facing the news himself, he trots out his chief economist, Goolsbee, who says the overall trajectory of the economy has improved dramatically over the past couple of years. Boy, I'll tell you what, an op-ed in the New York Post seems maybe a bit more candid. We'll put it up on the screen. Here's their view. Private sector job growth is anemic. Unemployment numbers are grim. Manufacturing has slowed to a crawl. Home prices falling again. The dollar keeps sinking. 44 million people on food stamps. Layoffs continue. Consumer confidence hitting the skids. And one could also add inflation for consumer goods and energy is on the rise. The nation facing, as everybody knows now, an imminent debt default. It could crash the world economy. This is more like a catastrophe than an improvement, isn't it?
You know what? I think those numbers are very grim. They're obviously not very good. And you're right, there are huge issues at stake right now going through Congress. The debt limit, getting that passed, and addressing some kind of deficit reduction plan as well over the next couple months. These are huge, huge issues. I mean, there's no doubt the economy is not where the White House would like it to be right now. There is zero doubt in my mind about that.
How does that shape or reshape the presidential race in 2012?
It's absolutely pivotal. Remember that old saying from 1992, it's the economy, stupid? Well, it's still the economy, stupid, okay? The economy matters more than absolutely anything else. Look, a president hasn't been reelected with this high unemployment rate since FDR in 1936, and he had a couple things going for him that President Obama doesn't right now.
I want to backtrack, if I could, to yesterday's speech. Some might conclude that the president almost broke his arm yesterday, patting himself on the back for bailing out Chrysler and General Motors. The truth is, it was President Bush who made the initial decision to do so December 19, 2008, and he granted the first bridge loans to those very auto companies that set forth then the road to the bailouts. President Obama, and I double-checked it today, gave not a word of credit to his predecessor. Were you struck by that?
You know, I wasn't struck by that as much. I can tell you what I was struck by, the irony of him speaking to this auto plant when gas prices are so ridiculously high still. And granted, we've seen some improvement over the last week, the last 2 weeks rather. We've seen them come down a little bit. But ask anyone who's still forking over $50 a tank at the pump right now. I mean, that's really an issue right now in voters' minds. They're not thinking about the Chrysler or GM bailouts. They're thinking about how much money they're paying to drive their car around.
Getting back to 2012, who might be best positioned to take advantage of a bad economy? Would it be a guy like Mitt Romney?
Yeah, I think Mitt Romney is certainly trying to position himself in that corner. He's talked about the economy. He has a very strong economic background. He's a former governor, single term of Massachusetts. He would like to position himself as that candidate. But I think there are some other notable candidates in the field who are also fighting for that area right now. I mean, you just showed great footage from the Faith and Freedom Coalition meeting this weekend. I know that focuses on social issues, but a lot of those contenders were talking about jobs and the economy, which really shows, even in a conference which is geared towards social issues, the economy is really the most important issue right now.
Joe Biden came out of one of the talks on Capitol Hill about the debt and deficit and the deal over the ceiling increase. And he said, we can make cuts, but it's going to have to mean revenue increases. That means tax increases. Is there any appetite for that on the Hill?
I think there's some appetite for certain tax increases, but I think if once you open that can of worms, you're going to have to deal with basically the entire tax code. And there's been talk about that and tax reform. It hasn't been taken seriously yet because House Republicans, as you know and many of your viewers know, control the House right now, so you'd have to get it through the House, which is rather unlikely.
All right, Shira Toeplitz, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right.